they learned to shoot at 7, 8 years old. I mean, and then I think my son Kyler, I was there to watch him shoot his first deer on a hunting trip we went to on some land that was donated for a hunt for that Kids Outdoor Zone group, and he was 10 years old. I mean, shot it straight through the heart at 150 yards at 10 years old, and I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
But then him seeing that and how he shot it through the heart and it blew out his shoulder blade on the backside because it dropped right there after it blew out the shoulder blade, he's like, I mean, that's not a toy, right? So
Well, I think you bring up a good
Reality.
point that,
Right.
and my main focus with my kids has been take away the curiosity.
Right.
And if you can take away that curiosity, you can appease that curiosity, then when you're not around, they're not going to go and try and appease their own curiosity. And from the beginning, like when they were at the appropriate age, I want to say some people might judge me on this, but it was like 5 or 6. You know, when they were mobile enough and could open and get to things, I sat down with them and showed them that these are my guns. Okay, make them safe, take everything away from them, and let them pick them up and let them handle them.
Yeah.
Let them touch them because that's what kids want to do, right? And then, like you're saying, take them out there. And I can remember sitting on, it was my sister-in-law's house in Burnett. We went out there and I had a little snub nose at the time. And we took that snub nose out and we got a milk jug full of water. And I was like, all right, dude, we're going to shoot this. And you're going to see exactly what this does to a milk jug full of water. Kind of like your example with the hunting, whenever he sees what it actually does to a deer.
yeah.
And actually let him, me holding it, but his hands on mine, pull that trigger, feel the concussion of it going off, how loud it is, and then seeing what it does to the target, right? And I think if you allow them to do those things, and my other thing was anytime that they asked to see them, I would stop what I was doing and I would appease that curiosity because I don't want that curiosity to go unchecked and for them to appease their own curiosity.
Yeah.
I'm to the point now, and I know that there are a lot of people that probably don't agree with this, but and I have my own opinions on locked up guns, whether that is readily accessible to you or not. Whenever something happens, like it's going to be hard to get
safe
to.
at them.
Right, you pick the safe up
Yep.
and you throw it
at them, and you'll be fine.
So I have guns in my house that are readily accessible, and I have zero fear that either one of my kids is going to go and pick one up, play with it in any way, shape, or form. Now, when they have friends over, or if
Yeah.
other friends of ours, their kids come over,
Yeah.
I go and lock things up because I don't.
You only can control
I
what
can
you
only
taught.
control my kids. So, and I think the hunting is a great example because I took Gray, I think he was 6. We were actually out at the Kimbrows and took them hunting out there. No, I take that back. So his first one was with a buddy of mine, Brandon Blanche, in South Texas. And he was 6 years old. Almost same story as
Yeah.
yours. I took him out there and we were going to just take it down with an AR, right? It's a simple gun to use, doesn't have a lot of kick. He's
Nope.
small. The advantage with him and I is he's right eye dominant, I'm left eye dominant, so I shoot everything from the left shoulder, which allows him to lean in so I can shoulder it, and he can still manipulate the gun because he's using his right eye on my left shoulder. So, funny story, he gets in there. We've been sitting in the blind for a while. We're being extra quiet. Like I told him, I was like, hey, guy, we're going to get out here. You need to be quiet. Like, you can't make a lot of noise. We don't want to scare him off. Eventually, a doe will step out, and we'll take the doe. So, we're sitting there. Boom, doe steps out, maybe 100 yards, 75 to 100 yards away. And it's just sitting there. And I'm like, all right, dude, you ready? And he's like, yeah, Dad. I'm like, all right. So, I get the AR, put it up, and he leans in and he gets right on, and all I had was a red dot on it. 75 to 100 yards should be fine.
Yeah.
Told him where he needed to put that red dot. When you're ready, pull that trigger. Boom, pull. I can literally watch the bullet and it shoots right under the belly, or right under the chest plate, and hits the ground below it. Doe jumps, boom, bolts off, and I'm like, all right, we'll get the next one, dude. And I look back over, and he's got he's got blood coming from his lip, but he's quiet. And I'm like, it takes a second for it to process what I'm looking at. And I'm like, dude, are you all right? And he goes, it hit my mouth. He had gotten so close up on there, yes, that the handle on it had popped him right in the lip, right? And I was like, dude, are you all right? And he was like nodding his head. And I was like, man, open up your mouth. Let me see. And he had a little bit of blood there. And I was like, man, you did good. And he's like, Dad, you told me to be quiet. I didn't want to make a sound. So I was like, all right. So we put the AR down, and we had a 22-250 that was sitting back there. And I was like, all right, we're going to try this time. I said, give it a little while. That doe will come back out. And within like 15 minutes, does came back out, lined up with the 22-250, same thing. There's not anything that's going to come back and pop him. And we talked about eye relief because this one actually had a scope on it. So we sat there and worked on it. Doe came out. He got on it. Same thing that yours. I was impressed. I have a picture of it. Whenever we went and field dressed it, finally he's sitting there holding it. We've got the blood, the blood coming down on his face, and he's holding the heart, and there's the hole right through it, Yeah. So it's a visualization. It lets him know, like you said, this isn't a toy.
Right.
This is something that we use to put food on the table,
right.
Or that we use to protect ourselves.
Well, and that's the other important part you learn down here. Like, it's the gathering part too. You're going to go field dress that. You're going to take care of that. You're going to process it. You're going to go through the steps of what this animal was and what it means to you in what you've done in hunting it, right? And, up there, again, there's muzzleloader season for 1 week. You don't really have a rifle when you're hunting, and you're sitting in a stand and you can't bait the hunt, right? So, I mean, you're sitting in a stand with a bow waiting for a doe or a buck to walk by for hours on end. So, I take the hunting in Texas a little lightly. When first time I went out, it was to a blind
with a feeder
at 5:30 a.m.
It's going to go off.
6:30 was going out. We're getting out an hour before. Feeder goes off, and there's 40 deer walking in, and
those
you guys
are the ones that
take
weren't
one
tied up to the feeder.
Take one. I'm like, wait, one, they look like dogs. They're so small.
They're tiny
in comparison.
Yeah, the hill country deer are tiny.
Yeah,
go to South Texas, they get a little bit bigger.
Yeah, they are for sure. But it was just an image. I'm like, this isn't really hunting. It's kind of like target practice. Because it was the first time I was ever using a gun to hunt, and this is my first hunt here, and it was and I had to choose. I never had anything like that before.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
It's a good introduction, but I mean, nothing compares to a true stalk and shoot hunt where you've actually got to put feet on ground. You've actually got to look for sign. You actually got to try and track them down, get eyes on them, move in close enough, know your wind, know your odor discipline. I mean, here in Texas, you can literally walk to the stand in flip-flops with bright red shorts and a neon green shirt, whatever, and sitting there and take a deer, and that deer never even knows that you're there, like you're talking about.
My first 10-point buck, I have a picture on this phone somewhere with me in a red Cardinals jersey, ear pods in, holding up the head.
Yeah.
That was
a true Texas hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but hey, he couldn't see me.